Welcome back to Studio Time, and we're still going through the template. This is episode 3. First episode, we discussed all the utility tracks, how I work on in Cubase on the top of my arrangement window. So if you haven't seen that, check that one out. The second episode is primarily focusing in on my 2 writing tracks and then the project-specific instruments, like all my instruments that I have and all my audio that I have specific to the instrument. And then after that, we started going through the template that covered all my drums, from really big hits to orchestral drums, to my whole drum library and the whole metal library. So if you haven't seen that, check out the previous episode. So where we are right now are the Strings from Hell, which is that piano that I built for 300, and I basically sampled some really nice low tones from that instrument that I use a lot to give low end to my production. Almost sounds like a bass guitar. It technically is a bass guitar, you know, you should look it up. And if you haven't seen it, link is like right here, making of the score, 300 Rise of an Empire. You see that piano in action. So the next folder of tracks is piano tracks. So a couple of Ivory pianos, ADO Legacy, and this is a boat piano. I usually use one of these 4 or 5 instruments in a score. Then we get to a couple of folders that are called external synths. So Oasis is the name of one of my studios that has a lot of analog gear, and Paradise, and that's the room where we are right now. And everything that you see around here is hooked up at all the time. So here we see my external MIDI synths, and by just playing the keyboard, not at this point because my MIDI interface just went down. So I have to check that out, what's going on there. But in any other scenario now, if I play the Roland Jupiter 6, the Jupiter 6 with sounds, the Jupiter 8, or the Juno 6, Jupiter 8, the Mini Moog, the Blofeld, sequential circuits T8, S50, blah, 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 blah. All the external synths that are here in this room are always wired at all the time. With MIDI and with audio, and I can just quickly play stuff in and then I can record it in. So very handy to have that ready at all times. Like I said, MIDI interface is not working, so at this point I can't showcase you that. But in the previous tutorials, you've seen all these synthesizers in full action, so you know what they sound like, including the super long reverb people keep complaining about. Unfortunately, I do like it, and it's my studio. So now we get to live basses. So this is a folder with a lot of electric basses that are mine, that I've sampled through different amplifiers, different guitar pedals, and I took a lot of effort in making them sound like really, really great. So let's just go through them. This is like this is a bass with played with a stick. That's a DI version of that. Short, long, another short. Now we get to a couple of tracks that I recorded in that same tank that I was talking about in the previous episode for Mortal Engines, where I also recorded a bunch of bass lines, and we used pipes and containers to extend the sound from the amp. I just put all kinds of microphones in there. If I find a picture, I will insert it like right here. But it's really great sounding. And again, that's the reverb of the hall itself. I didn't do it. So now there's a bunch of them. It just keeps going, keeps going. It's a really great instrument, a really great instrument that I'm really happy with. I really like this one. So that's me actually playing a full chord on a bass. Anyway, so those are all the bass sounds. The next one is guitars, and here we find a lot of feedback guitars at first. Again, it's like a way of pointing out, you know, go please over there to see like a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that. So some feedback guitars here. Anyway, just noise that I like. Now we get to the next folder, which is guitars. Also, this is a way to point you to the right direction to see what other libraries have made. And I've sampled guitars so many times. I think I've got like hundreds of instruments, and they all sound absolutely completely different. Let's see what we have here. Oh, this is great guitar sound. Really happy with that sound. Super great sound. All guitars. So there's hundreds of them more, which are all like sound design in nature. Now we get to the more natural sounding guitars. So that's a Fender Jaguar sampled through a Fender Twin Reverb. So now I did the same, but now with resonators. Really like that instrument too. So bunch of different guitars. Now we move on to the next folder, which is sound design done on cello, which is really interesting because you take like a staccato cello and you do all kinds of sound design on it, and now you get something like this. So I use this type of sound a lot on Fury Road. So let's move on to the next category. This folder is called JXL Noise Machine 2013. What it means in 2013, when I had 3-4 weeks of nothing to do, I decided to do a lot of different types of sound design and just build a complete library out of it. The first set of tracks are called Boat Beauties, which is all made from guitars and violins, whatnot, everything that has like a bow. And I did like sound design on them. Let's go through another few. So it's a really nice collection of sounds. I have 16 loaded at this point, but I made hundreds of them. So that also points me to a certain direction where I want to go. The next one is called Brass Gorilla. What Brass Gorilla is basically a lot of samples made from a Harley Davidson and then turn them into instruments. So very musical in nature, for me at least. Then we get to glassy clusters. I forgot what these were made from, but it basically all sounds like glassy kind of stuff. So really cool to use that as additional stuff, especially with strings, to add like extra tension to it. The next folder is primarily Hunhur, which is Mongolian singers that I time stretched and did a bunch of stuff with. It's a really nice collection of sounds. Next folder, because it just doesn't stop, JXL VVU, which is another time period, 2015, where I spent a lot of time making sound design. A bunch of slap hits, effects hits, low whooshes. Stuff like that. Then we get here with an orange color. This is like another set of sounds. I have an air drone on. This is one of my favorite sounds. It's I used it a lot in Mad Max. This is actually a Second World War airplane that I sampled and turned into like an instrument. Anyway, I love that kind of stuff. The next folder is, it's all blue and it's more like horror-ish in nature. So it's really great to create effects like that. So that's the blue department. It's a little horror-ish in nature. Then we get to this dark blue folder, and these are all like kind of weird sounding sound design instruments. So there's a lot of that. So that kind of wraps up the sound design thing from those couple of projects. Again, I have like roughly 150, 200 tracks loaded at this point, but it's more so a way to direct me to that library again and just look for different sounds. So this is a collection that I really like, but there are thousands of them. So at any point in time, I can just open up contacts and just go through those libraries and pick like any other sounds. So now we move down to a folder that's called Guitar from Hell. So now I took an acoustic guitar and an acoustic bass and I treated them various different ways with different microphones, different playing technique, and then do sound design on top. So there's so many different instruments here as well. So the red ones are just the basses, and now we go to the blue ones, which is all guitars, I think. Yeah. Really great for additional sound design that you need on a specific track. Then we get back to a bunch of red ones, and these are all hits made on an acoustic guitar. These are all rhythms. That's the yellow department, all done on guitars. And they're all in sync with the tempo. So if I go down or up in tempo, they will stay in sync. I really like the sound of that. Then we go to the piano from hell, which is an instrument that I discussed earlier. So now we go through hundreds of tracks that I did from that. It goes all over the map. It's all like pretty distorted and really like harsh. Look at that. All like really cool stuff. So all just like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tracks done with that. These are pretty cool. These are really brutal as well. Again, all made with that piano, hundreds and hundreds of tracks. So I'm just gonna go through them, see where it's gonna end up. More and more and more of that piano. Now things with brushes, also done on the piano. These are bend sounds where we bended the piano strings. It's pretty cool. So these are all bends up and bends down, always great to have. And now we're gonna get to a folder that's all yellow, and these are all like sound design done on classical performances that I found on YouTube of youth orchestras and things like that, and time stretched the hell out of it, so you get sounds like this. Really cool sounds. Also, I have hundreds of these. I just have 16 loaded at this point, but there are hundreds of them. And that brings us to the next folder before, and the last folder before we get to Jigsaw scoring, which I will cover in a separate episode. So here we have a bunch of processed brass. Actually, the source is not brass, the source is guitar. But the way that I treated the instruments, it sounds like it's brass. So this one sounds almost like a tuba. Really cool sound, and then the same with the trombones and with the horns. These are actually two tracks that you need to put on record at the same time. So it's really cool to combine that actually with live brass, because it does something really, really cool with the sound. Okay, so that brought us at the end of the Junkie XL instruments, and the next one we're going to cover is Jigsaw scoring. So see you next time.